The timing of your breathing on front crawl, incredibly important, both when you breathe and when you turn back. Get it wrong at your peril. Hi and welcome to this video with me, Wayne, from swimmingcyclingrunning.com. Well, this week we're going to look at the topic of how swiftly you should turn your head back and your body back to the prone position, or rotate back, once you've taken a breath. This idea came to me when I was looking a few days ago at a girl who rotated back incredibly late, and I wanted to see what that did to her stroke. Well, I had a look, and I'm going to show you on the computer exactly what happened to her, and then I'm going to go through another example of someone who actually turns back slightly differently, and then we'll come back and have a chat. When you breathe in front crawl, you really want to make the breath as swift as possible, to inhale as swift as possible, and that way you keep in the normal swimming position for as long as possible, and you increase your speed. Let's just take a look at this swimmer in slow motion. We can see she's coming up to a breath here, and she breathes to the side. Now that's approximately breathing in the right position, and you'll see that she's fast enough to breathe in that trough of water that's been created around her head. She's got one eye effectively still in the water, even though she's raised her head just slightly. So you breathe in front crawl right at the back of the stroke. But what tends to happen from here is she should have finished her breath by then. It should have been a quick inhalation, and by this point her shoulder and her hip should be rotating back into the prone position, so that at this point, as her arm comes forward, her head goes back into the water, but it doesn't. As you can see there, what actually happens is her arm takes her head back into that position. And because she's left the ideal position, what's happened is her arm, which is out front there in a very nice position, and could, if she rotated back now, hold the water in a good catch position, drops from the surface. And you can see that's dropping from the surface, and then the elbow suddenly collapses. And you can see that here, the elbow's collapsed, and that's the shape of her arm. And what's effectively happened is there she's caught the water, and she's actually now got a stroke length that is there. Prior to that, if she'd turned back effectively there, she would have had a stroke length from there to there. That's a significant reduction in stroke length, and undoubtedly causes her to lose speed. There's another thing that happens. Because she's coming forward with that arm for so long and the other arm's dropping, she's unbalanced. And as she becomes unbalanced, you'll see from the back end, this leg splays out there and that leg splays that way. And all she's really doing is balancing herself up, but she's creating an incredible amount of drag around those legs that shouldn't be there. So once again, because of the delay in rotating back into the prone position, she's slowing herself down. Let's now take a look at a swimmer with a slightly different style. Again, we'll play it in slow motion. You can see a nice streamlining there for anyone who hasn't. And we'll see he grabs the water really far out in front of him. And when he turns to breathe, he does exactly the same thing. Let's go back and look at that again. Okay, so he's coming forward, and you'll see that early catch. And this is a longer distance swimmer, open water swimmer. Masters champion, in fact. And you can see, even when he breathes to the side, he's starting to rotate back, which means that he can actually grab the water much further out and drive through. We'll look at that again. Breathing as he exits the water, and his head turns back long before his arm enters the water. You can see that over there. And he's grabbed the water much further out because of that. Let's look at Adam again, but this time from the side. You can see he really stretches out and tries to hold the water there. And you can see he's holding the water and got a really long stroke length. You can see where it ends, right by his thigh. And same with the other arm, grabs the water. But here he's turning to breathe, and he's turned to breathe. And notice he's still in that trough, but he's turning his head back really early. Because he turns his head back early, he still has that forearm that holds huge amounts of water that he can drive back, and it's well ahead of his body. If you notice, here's his elbow, and his elbow is well ahead of his head, So he's grabbing the water as far out as he possibly can. And he'll breathe again, and he's still doing that. Now, if you turn your head back late, you can't possibly do that. And that's why he's snapping his body back into position. So there we have it. The importance of rotating back before your arm actually gets level with your shoulder, or as your arm gets level with your shoulder. Massively important. It means you've got to take a very swift breath. But that should be okay, because you should have fully exhaled before you rotate to breathe. If you do that, it all becomes easy. It's only if you delay that or think you need to get a huge breath in. If you think you need to get a huge breath in, you need to practice only taking a real gulp of air massively into your lungs and then turning back. And that will extend your stroke so that you have the maximum stroke length and you can grab the water way out front. That's important for sprinters, medium distance, long distance, open water swimmers and triathletes. You want to maximize your stroke length and minimize the time that your head is out the water breathing. That's all for this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. See you next week. Keep well, enjoy your training.